This is like butter right now. It's looking
Oh,
and
thank
sounding
you.
really
Why,
good.
thank you.
All right, so everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Paul B. Allen the fourth. He's the station manager of Mind and Soul Radio 101.3. And
Hey,
Paul,
hey.
thank you for coming to educate my students about, with all your years of audio experience and musicianship. Just give us a little background about your how you learned about audio and your experience with it.
My family has been in the music business since the 50s. And so by the time I was born, they were heavily into recording. We had a family recording studio. Some of my earliest memories are being sitting at the big board at the studio and playing with the faders and things. So I was given a tape recorder when I was 2 years old, and I still have tapes from when I was like
Oh
messing
my
around
God.
on that. So I've just always been an audio dude, always been, like I said, background in the studio. So I've always been in the studio and just learned it all by osmosis first. And then of course had to get some formal training later to really solidify what it is that I already kind of knew, but didn't know in the scientific way that you need to know. So,
Yeah.
so that's gone on for a long, long time. I got into pro audio to do live shows when I was in Hawaii for 9 years, and I was the person that put on shows there. So I did a lot of live stuff. I had to learn how to run live boards, what mics go well for that type of thing, and doing audio for bands of upwards of 30 people on stage. So a lot of live audio I learned there. And then when I moved to Omaha, I learned video and then learned what I knew about the audio connected with the video world, and how to get video in, how it is associates with the video that you shoot, and what you need to do in order to record multiple streams coming in, and all the things that you got to do for video. And now I'm program director at Mind and Soul 101.3 FM, which is a radio station based out of Benson, low power radio that we just built about 3 years ago. And so all of my knowledge about audio is being used there because that's all audio. Yeah. So there I had to learn how to do different types of mixing at the radio station. And then since our studio is separate from our tower, which is in Benson, we have to send audio over IP. So that's audio over internet protocol. It's just audio over the web. Just like this thing we're doing here with the Zoom, that's audio over internet as well, audio and video over internet. But it's very low quality. So what we do at the station is have a high HD, what we call high definition sound that needs to go over the internet to the tower and then broadcast out into the cars and your radios. So I feel like I'm at this full spectrum of learning about microphones, audio, preamps, mixers, everything that you need to know in order to get a good clean audio sound in all kinds of different environments.
From an audio standpoint, what is the key gear you need to capture sound in most situations? Cords, mics, digital recorder, etc.
So key gear that I take absolutely every time is an external digital recorder like the Zoom. Even if my camera has pro audio on it, I will still take the external because I usually run both in order to have a backup for audio. A very powerful boom mic like the one we talked about. Always bring your boom mic. It's necessary for everything. And it's good to have a mic pole. You can put the boom mic on your mic pole, and you can either hand hold it in for the person, or you can put it on a C-stand and it'll just stay there, and you can point it right to your person. So I would definitely say a boom pole. However, you can have a microphone stand or a boom pole or something to be able to just hold it without you having to hold it.
Yeah.
A dead cat for this as well, in case you get caught outside and you need to cut that wind noise down. So this is kind of the center of everything here. This shotgun mic. Also, I bring the wireless lav because you never know when you're in a situation where you need to where a person's going to be moving around too much for this to be stationary. And so I will go ahead and pin a wireless lav on them and put them in. I bring a couple extra XLR cords for these microphones because sometimes they'll have a short in them, they'll go out. or there's nothing worse than you having a short in your cord and you have no more cords with you. So I always bring extra XLR cords. And headphones. Never, never, never forget the headphones, because just like you're looking at your screen to monitor video, you got to listen to your audio to monitor audio. You cannot just use the levels on your player visually to tell you whether or not you're getting a good signal. You have to hear it. You have to hear it and pay attention. So always, always bring headphones. Sometimes I just bring the earbuds from the iPhone, plug those in and use those. Whatever it is, you got to be able to monitor it closely. So you got to have headphones. So
Right.
I make sure I have all those things. And also,
Batteries.
Extra batteries. You can never have enough batteries on any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I even bring an extension cord, a power cable, if I need to charge the batteries in the camera, in the player, if they're chargeable. So, and if you just got to plug everything in, it's good to have a power strip and a cord with you. So just everything you can anticipate that you might need to capture sound. Blankets and stuff in the car too, because you never know when you got a dead in the room. So you pack blankets, pillows, anything that has material on it. If you're in a situation where you need to pull that stuff out in order to keep the echo down in the room, then you use that kind of stuff too. So the goal is to get there, to get to an echoless room, quiet area, get the mic as close as possible without it being in the shot, and pay attention to everything that's coming out of that person's mouth until you rap.
I got nothing to add. That's exactly right.
Yeah, if you're out in the field, lavalier is a good mic to use. This is an example of one.
Okay.
It's very small compared to other mics, and that's so that you can use this clip, kind of clip it on the shirt, clip it on the collar, and get it pretty close to a person's mouth, and that means they're speaking right into it, which will give you a really clean signal that way, and kind of blocks out everything else around it as well. So it zooms right in on a person's mouth and goes for it. If you're recording someone in a group, or if it's kind of loud in the room, this is one to have here.
Okay.
Because it's right there by the mouth, and it will block out a lot of the other sounds around. So yeah, good one to use if you have a wireless. This one is a wired lav, so it plugs right into your player. They have wireless lavs as well, so you can go up to 30 feet in distance with your camera away from the person who is speaking and still pick up really clean audio. Yeah. You might get a little distortion, you might get a little static, but just turn off your cell phones, and then that'll kind of block that. They're all in the same frequency. So there's ways to get around the static on a wireless lab, but wireless labs are good. They're great to have.
I agree. I mean, I like the close, like when you're listening back to it and editing, it's like you're right there with the person, and it just, the one I have is not necessarily, it's just a Rode kit that wireless kit, but I think the sound is very intimate, and I've just used the heck out of it.
It's like you put it right here up on your chest, and it's like you're giving this really warm tone. Now it's almost like you're laying on somebody's chest listening to them speak.
Right, and you got to be careful with those labs of jewelry, hair, jackets.
Totally.
Yeah, so you become adept at, it's almost like putting a corsage on somebody. You're not only trying to camouflage it with what they're wearing, but also not get like interference from stuff rubbing on it. And sure. So that's another reason why it's so good to have someone monitoring, is you can do it all yourself as a one-person show, but to have an dedicated audio person is so helpful, I think.
That's actually my biggest tip. My biggest tip is, no matter what they say, have a dedicated audio person that can just pay attention to the audio, and they already know to listen for room noise and sounds, and can stop people from coming in, and all kinds of things they can do while you're concentrating on your shot. So even though you can do it on your own, it's really better to have somebody there with you.
Teamwork makes the dream work. What was I going to say about that? Room tone. This is something that you just said. I know that you always get room tone when we do a job together. And tell me when you use that. Well, tell me what it is and when do you use it?
Yeah, so you should always get a lot of room tone, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, which is what the way the room sounds. So every room has a tone. Even when it's quiet and there's nobody talking, nothing moving, the room has a sound that reverberates all around all the time that you can't hear sometimes. Sometimes it's a sound that is way low in frequency and you can't even hear it. But a lot of times you can, because it'll be the air conditioner unit, or it'll be a fan that's running, or it'll be a refrigerator that's running that you wouldn't notice normally.
Yeah.
And so you capture 1 or 2 minutes of that, so that later on, if there's a break in between words or a break in between a sentence that you need some room tone for, you can put that in and it won't sound like it just cuts out in your edit. And also you use room tone for when you're doing some what they call noise reduction on your track. So if a person is, so when you get back into the studio for post-production and you listen to the track that you just recorded, sometimes you need to cut the track and you need to say, take that back, I'll rewind that. A lot of times you need to clean the track up by taking out noises, making it as clean as possible. When you go into your noise reduction program, what happens is they'll take the room noise and they say that's your baseline. So now when you go in to do noise reduction, it'll use that as an example of what to cut out in order to make your vocal sound cleaner. So you should always get room noise. It's always a thing that makes the sound consistent all the way through and doesn't sound like you've chopped out to nothing when you do a cut. It'll sound like it was just a natural, they were in the room and they stopped talking and then they started back up. And it doesn't sound like there was a chop in your audio because you've laid another track of room tone down behind it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really amazing how much difference that does make. Because it's kind of like from going from like beige to pure white. You don't really, that it looks white until you put it next to pure white. And it's that same as it's that contrast of absolutely dead, no sound versus the room tone. So it's, they used to talk about it a lot when I was a student, but I haven't heard anybody talk about room tone yet. So thank you for hipping us to the room tone.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to tell everybody to be quiet for a minute and get a couple of minutes of it,
That's right. Yeah, you can't be shy about it. Yeah. Why is it important to clap or somehow mark the beginning of each take?
If you're using an external player or external recorder, then later on in post, you want to sync up your sound to the image. And the way you do that is by using a clapper, or you can clap your hands in front of the camera and in earshot of the recorder, so that when you go later on, you can match up those peaks and it'll help in matching up your sound to your video better. If you have a camera that has pro audio on it already, it's best to just plug your microphone directly into your camera, then you don't have to worry about matching audio later. But if you're using an external player like the Zoom player we had earlier, right. That's what helps there. It's whenever your audio and your video are separated, that helps you put it back together in post.
Right. I heard another tip, Paul, that we need to use next time we do something is that every take, they add another clap. So it's take 3, they go, so that you can see it on the waveform when you're editing. I'm like, why didn't I ever think of that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard that one. Okay.
No, me neither. We talked about why it's important to monitor your audio. And so do you have a preference recording directly into the camera or using an external setup, or are they the same?
If your camera has pro audio setup on it, then you can plug a microphone into it, an actual microphone into it with an XLR cable. Then I would suggest you do that, because then you have it right there in with the video and you never have to sync it up later. Yeah. But if you have if you have a person there that's helping you monitor audio, if they have their own recorder, then they can kind of go away from the camera and they can sit there and monitor the audio. Then it's good to have that. And then you just make sure that you do the clap so you can sync it up later. I even had situations because I run a Panasonic video cam sometimes that has pro audio on built in, and I'll have someone plugged in with their headphones into that camera and stand next to me and watch audio and still just have it in camera. So it really depends on what kind of setup you have. I like to have both. I like to have a camera that has pro audio on it so I can do that when I want to, and also have a player. Sometimes I use them at the same time for backup.
Right.
Because there's no, a card may go bad or something in your player, and then you have the audio there from your camera. So I usually try to run 2 audio sources, one in camera and one audio recorder, so that I just have a backup of audio.
We talked a little bit about can you save my students some heartache by telling them some of the common mistakes that people make when they first start recording audio with their video, because it's 2 different skills really, and it's easy to get concentrated on the video and forget about the audio.
Yeah, absolutely. Very first thing that I like to mention is something that is very contradictory to everything that you'll be learning from now until you get to the end, which is it doesn't have to be a one-man show, and it shouldn't be a one-man show really. If you have someone come with you to do the audio part for you while you concentrate on the video, that's your best bet. That means that you have somebody really concentrating on what's coming in audio wise and they can control it. So my first suggestion is find an audio person or find someone to come with you to monitor audio. And a lot of mistakes will be circumvented if you just do that in the first place.
Yeah.
Also, my biggest mistake, the one that I make every time, not every time, but I make a lot, and I even still to the day keep doing it. I'll take an external player, like the Zoom player, for instance, and I'll press record and walk away as if everything is getting ready to get captured, and then find out it doesn't because whatever reason, I didn't press the button hard enough, or this particular player, you have to press play after record or whatever the deal is. So the way to get around that is to make sure the numbers are running on your recorder. You have to make sure that the numbers are running, right? Check the numbers. As a matter of fact, when I have my audio guy with me, I say camera rolling, and then he'll say audio's rolling, which means the numbers are rolling on the screen. Make sure that you look at that and see that happen. And then there you go. Then you have your audio, and you can make sure that it's running. So that's like a beginner's and an intermediate and a professional mistake. You always make sure that your player is running. Not monitoring the feed is another one that I think is a mistake that you make. So just because your levels are going up and down, you really need to put headphones in and listen. Even if you're doing a one-man show, put the headphones in and listen to it and monitor. See if somebody's, when they laugh loud, if it peaks, or if they're talking and it's too low. You can tell all that stuff by listening to it, not necessarily just by looking at the meters go up and down. So a lot of times we get lazy, just look at meters. Oh, the audio's coming in, it's fine. No, you need to listen to it, make sure it sounds like something when it's coming in. So yeah, I definitely suggest that. Let's see. Also, we talk about a sound person you got to be bold to be a sound guy, first of all. So if you're trying to be the person that's dedicated to that, you have to make sure that you're in an environment that is quiet. You have to go in and test that environment out first, see if it's echoey. If it's not, if it has too much echo in the room, then find another room that has more fabrics, carpets, blankets, even a bed in the room. Sometimes you need to put a blanket up over your microphone stand or something in order to deaden that sound, because you cannot fix echo in post-production.
Nope.
Echo is the only thing that you cannot fix in post-production. So you have to have a clean signal coming in first. You can fix just.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, you can pretty much fix anything else, but that echo, can't do it. So you go into the room and you see what it sounds like when you clap. If it's dead, great. If it's echoey, you got to figure out a way to get the echo out of there. But yeah, being a sound guy is like, you definitely got to go in, make sure that that's the case. You have to tell people around, hey, don't walk in. We're having an interview right now. Stay out. Often yell quiet on the set.
I've seen him do it. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah,
yeah,
somebody's got to run things, and people just don't know. You're experiencing the room from a whole different perspective with those headphones on, and you can
yeah,
hear creaks in the floor, people walking around upstairs, wind,
right.
air conditioning, heating. You know, and it can be really quiet for the first 10 minutes, and then the air conditioning comes on. So that's why if you wouldn't ever shoot without watching the picture, you gotta listen to the audio in the same way you would watch the picture, because there's nothing worse than getting to your computer and loading that audio in and having it, you know, part of it be like kind of polluted by something that was avoidable.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad you said that. You mentioned that too, because one wouldn't think that if an air conditioner kicks on, it's going to make that big of a difference, but it makes a ton of difference.
Yeah.
It so much so that you might even have to have your subject start again, speak again, because it's too hard to cut half of a sentence. Air conditioner cuts on half the sentence, and then that sentence pretty much ruined. So to listen to that level of detail often takes somebody else in the room with you to help you do that, first of all. But yeah, you'll learn with experience that some of those things, like air conditioners turning on in the middle of a sentence, is something that you have to do again. And that's another point about being a bold sound person. You might have to stop everything and say, hey, you got to repeat that line. You got to do that over because you know the air conditioner kicked in right there, so we need you to do that one more time. Or a car drove by, nobody noticed it but your sound guy,
Yeah.
and so
Right.
you know
Right.
that type of thing.
Well,
And
yeah.
mhm.
No, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just gonna say, and to that point too, um, the sound person is also listening for how a person is speaking on the microphone, whereas again, the camera person is looking at the image and making sure that he looks right saying it. But
Right.
you got to make sure they sound right saying it. So if a word doesn't come across clear to you, then you have to stop everybody, the camera person and everybody, just say, hey, it didn't sound very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, you have to stop and start according to the sound. Don't be too shy to say, I didn't hear that all the way. That didn't come through all the way. We got to do that over. So
Yeah,
again,
that's so true, and we've done different takes of answers for
right,
some projects where you know, they're just not quite, they're nervous or whatever, and Paul is really good at putting people at ease. He's super friendly, and but he will guide them, you know, if he feels
yeah,
like they haven't quite got gotten what they meant to say exactly clear, then he will
right,
you say, well, tell me about that again, or can you go back and let's try that one more time. And people don't take it uh bad. It's because at the end of the day, people don't want to sound ignorant, or you know, they don't want to sound like, just it's stressful for people to be on camera and be recorded, and so sometimes they need a couple takes.
yeah. They always do. They always do. If you're not used to being on camera, then it's just you can be very personable talking, and then you get on
Right.
camera like, I see a rabbit and a squirrel, and there's nothing else you can do but tell them, you know, yeah, loosen them up. And that's, you know, it's funny. Like I'll never tell anybody that, but I'm thinking that too. I'm thinking they
Yeah,
sound so ignorant right
I
now. Like I don't
know.
want, like you got to care about how dumb they sound too, and then be like, why don't you try saying it like this? You know. So there's a
You're
lot
their
of
advocate, because you know
yeah,
what that's going to turn out like. If they, God no,
yeah.
we've edited a lot of projects where we had to really pull teeth to get me able
That's
to.
the funniest thing to me too is people are just like the cameras, they don't even know the camera's rolling, they're just as animated and they're having a great time, and then you hit the record button and they go, I see a rabbit and a squirrel, and we're just like, what happened to your personality? So yeah, there's a lot, you know, there's a
Yeah.
lot, but it really helps to have a second person there in order to kind of really pay attention to that kind of stuff. What word did they just use or
Yeah.
whatever? Because you miss it when you're concentrating on other things.
Right. I would love to have you tell me about the different kind of mics you typically use when,
Yeah,
in particular with video projects. Again.
the shotgun. I would say that, this is what they call a shotgun mic. You can see that.
Yeah.
The reason why I think this is probably your number one purchase is because you kind of do everything with it. So the way this is set up they call it a shotgun mic because if you have it pointed right at someone's mouth, it's very targeted. It'll pick up what they have to say, and not a lot. It won't pick up a lot around it or in back of it, but it'll shoot right towards the person and pick them up. So this is good if you're in a place that is a little bit noisy and you need to shoot right towards their mouth. This is great if you're in a controlled room. If you're in a room that's very quiet, then you don't have to pin a lav mic to their shirt and all that. You can just set this up and take it out of your frame, of course, and then you know, and it picks you up very well. And also, this is a great mic for in studio when you're doing voiceovers too. If you don't want to buy a separate mic, you can use these in studio, and they're very clear and clean enough to be able to do that too. And I would suggest you get one of these, and they have covers on them. They call it dead cats.
Yeah.
And because they look like a dead cat, just hair everywhere.
They really do. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what they call them. It's not politically correct, but they call them dead cats.
Right.
And you know what it was if you see it, but you put it on this. Then when you're outside, the wind is not killing your audio. So wind is something to really listen for, especially if you're outside.
Oh yeah.
But they have mechanisms to fit on shotgun mics like this that will cut that wind noise down. So this is one of the best things to get. Of course, if you want to get up close and personal, and if you need to, if you're in a situation where you got a lot of noise and you need somebody to be very direct, then you can pin a lav mic to them. Lav mic is the really tiny one with the clip on it that you put on a shirt. So it's called lavalier mic. We call it lav for short. This is a wired lav, so it plugs right into your player. But they also have wireless lavs that we use.
Right.
So no wire, just something that clips in there, and it goes to a little pack, sends to another pack on your camera, and that way you can kind of back up maybe like 30 feet away from your subject and still get sound because you got this wireless lav on them, and it's a real warm, clean sound. It's real close. Yeah. And it works really well. Sometimes you're just in situations where you have to put a lav mic on. They're moving around is another reason why. Right. You know, if you have a stationary shotgun mic but they're trying to show you something, they'll be all over the place. But if you have a lav mic on them, they can move around with it, and that's another circumstance to have it. So it's good to have both in your repertoire for sure. And if you're at home doing voiceovers, of course you can use something like this, which is a large diaphragm condenser mic. And this one makes you sound like butter. This is butter mic right here. You sound like you're a singer. You sound like Adele. If you sing on this, you sound like Adele when you're singing. So this is great for voiceovers. This is about a $200 mic. It uses phantom power, 48 volts. So you have to have an audio card for your computer to plug this into. But if you want like really, really clean stuff, you can do it pretty well for $180, $200 right here. But like I said, if you go to buy one mic and buy it first, I would say go with the shotgun mic because it can do it all. Yeah.
I don't even have a shotgun mic. I'm going to go buy one now because you just said that.
This is your shotgun mic right here because I'm your audio guy.
I guess so. Yeah. That's true. I know where to go. Gosh, I think we've covered all the things that I had on my list. I just wondered if there was anything that you wanted to talk about that I forgot to ask or didn't ask.
Yeah. A clapper. You know what? I was gonna go get the clapper, but anyway.
You love that clapper. Yeah.
And just like when we're on jobs, I forgot to bring the clapper. Just like every time. And we usually have to do it with our hands. So that's what we say when we say we have to clap it. And if you're using an external recorder, and then that is necessary for you to be able to sync up your audio when you go to post-production. So you clap in front of the camera so the camera can see it and hear it. And then you make sure that you're in earshot of the external recorder. Then when you go inside, you can see the peaks when you go into edit later, and you can line your audio up with your video. Of course, if you have a camera that has pro audio on it already, you can plug your microphone right into it, then there's no need to sync it up. But if you have an external sync, external recorder, that's when you need to make sure that you can sync it better. Right. So that's what the clapper thing is all about. And it's also cool to be on a shoot with an actual like movie clapper. When people think And you can even have them do it. Oh, I can do the clock. They get all happy about it. So
it's true. People love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it chills people out.
Wondering if you do most of your audio editing in Premiere or do you do it in Audition?
Oh, you definitely do your audio editing in Audition.
Okay.
It's really, really made for that. When you have a piece of audio in Premiere, I do the right click and says edit in Adobe Audition. It takes me to Audition, and then I have all the tools there. Now, Premiere's latest versions has a lot of Audition tools in it already, so sometimes you don't even have to bring it out to do some certain things. But I do, because I like to do a sound. Why do I have a hard time remembering noise reduction? That's what I'm trying to say. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like to do noise reduction within Audition so that I can really fine tune the noise reduction. So I will take my audio track out of Premiere into Audition and do all my stuff there. But like I said, the new Premiere has a lot of Audition tools there already for you to do it right there in Audition. I even think they have a noise reduction there. Just never used it. So pretty much everything that you need, you can do right there in Premiere with the latest versions.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, we're learning Premiere, and are there certain go-to, besides noise reduction, just things they can do as sort of beginners in Premiere to make that audio sound as good as it can? Once they've recorded it using all your wonderful tips, it's going to be nice, clean audio. But it can still always use help in post,
Sure. Yeah. Some of the things I do in post, number one, noise reduction. So I'll use that to clean it up first. After that, I'll take it through some dynamics. So there's some dynamic settings there. Inside the dynamics folder, there's a setting called hard limit. So I'll put a hard limiter on it, which means that if they did peak, it won't go past a certain level. So it'll stay even. Really kind of evens out the interview there.
Okay.
And the hard limiter also has a small compressor on it too, so it just really tightens up the audio piece there to put that on. After I run it through a hard limiter, I'll go to maybe a 10-band EQ, and I'll do a setting where I roll off the bass on the EQ, because especially on a voice, if it's too bassy, if it's in the same frequency as the air conditioner unit that's running and everything else, it just sounds real heavy. So you roll the bass off on an EQ, raise some of the highs, make it clear, and just do it by sound and whatever sounds good. General rule is to roll the bass off and lift the highs up some. And so right around that time, I'm feeling like the vocal is solid, and it's sounding good and it's clear and it's even. And then I put it back in the mix, put it back with the room tone and everything else that I have there, and check it. And those are the ones that I use to really kind of clean up the audio a lot.
One thing that you showed me that I use all the time is when you're editing, say, an interview or something with someone talking, and you're taking bits and pieces and putting them together, but they wouldn't have necessarily all been said sequentially. So I'm taking different quotes and kind of stringing them together. When I'm putting them together, usually under B-roll, you showed me that I can do a really simple, what's the cross dissolve for audio? It's it's like the transition.
Like a fade.
A fade, yeah.
A fade. Yeah.
And then just bring it in really tight to the edge of the clip. So it's not like a long, like if you use it in its usual way, it is like gonna take the audio down to nothing. Is if you just put it real tight I'll show you guys. I'll do a tutorial about how to do that, but it really, it kind of takes away that like choppy sound that can happen when you're taking a bunch of different little sound clips and putting them together.
Right.
When you edit, you told me to do that.
Yeah. When you're doing an edit and you cut a line, or you stop a line, or you cut a line so you can bring another line next to it, you'll hear it cut right off to nothing.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so what you're talking about is putting a fade on the end of each line, so it
Right.
kind of rolls down to nothing. And
Yes.
then if you have another track underneath it that has the room tone,
Right.
then now you've made a seamless transition between sentences without it sounding choppy and or like an unnatural stop to it. So of course it's something you have to try and see in order to really understand how it works. But that's the general rule. You're going to put a exponential fade on the end of each line, so and room tone underneath, so that it can sound like they just stop talking in the room and they start back up. There's no down to zero, down to no sound at all, and then sudden room and voice comes back on, and all the jarring things that happens when you make cuts. So this cuts down on all that the jarring nature of a cut.
Right. You don't want to call attention to those cuts. They want to be seamless sounding, and yet, like if you didn't know, you'd think it was just what they naturally said, the first brilliant thing that came out of their mouth, but instead you had to bring it from like 8 different answers and put them together.
Every time. Every time. To be a sound person, you really have to care about whether or not you have to walk away knowing that you're going to help this person not sound stupid.
Yes.
It's kind of like, and you can even tell them that, hey, don't worry, man, we will cut this all up. We promise we'll make you sound as intelligent as you wish you were. So
I don't know if I put it that way, but yeah, we do. I mean, because that's the big fear, that people are going to come off looking and sounding ignorant or whatever, and people, it's just you're self-conscious and you can't think as well when all that attention's on you, lights are on
True.
you. It's rough. So I think that's all I have, Paul. That you've just been so helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad I could help.
I think we should have our own show at some point where we talk about video stuff.
If we're gonna be in this doggone quarantine long enough, probably.
Right? Well, Paul B. Allen, you're as always a very knowledgeable guy, and we're really lucky to have you share this with us. And I want to thank you very much on behalf of my students for taking the time to talk to me and tell me this stuff. And hopefully someday you'll be the audio teacher.
Oh, maybe. I want to tell all the students, Bob Moss is the dude. He's the dude. And also, Roger Mead taught me everything I know, audio-wise. So you guys got some gems over there. Hold on to them.
Thank you, Paul.
You're
all
welcome.
right.